Hi everyone, and welcome to this little making of how it's made, whatever you want to call it, about my animation, Wendy. You might be wondering, why am I staring at this notebook? And it's because this is where it all starts. This is my idea notebook for Skyfox ideas, Skyfox updates and animations and things like that. And in fact, this is the conception of Skyfox. Some of you might have already seen this. I've posted on Patreon before, and yeah, this is the very first Skyfox that I was trying a couple of different ideas, and then I went with the M for the ears, and that's how I ended up in Skyfox. So yeah, this is a very important little notebook for me, and this is where pretty much every idea for animation begins. So we start with this. This is the Wendy script, so to speak, like rough idea slash script. It's just the rough idea, I believe, and I have, well, a page for each of the other characters. Skyfix is already done, but I don't really want to spoil that. But yeah. So after the obviously the written script, or written rough script, I started with a couple of ideas and started with like a very rough storyboard. This is kind of the beginning where you see, like, you know, where I was like, okay, so we start in the stars and then it goes down. So it goes down and goes there, right? And then we go in the restaurant, and we just what you see in the animation, and then just more like rough storyboard, right? And all of this is gonna be after the ideas kind of take place. They're all gonna be translated into the computer, to digital, so then I can, you know, begin actually animating. But as you can see, you know, it's pretty much everything in the animation is here. There's a couple of things that didn't make it, and in fact there might be something, yeah, here. This one I ended up scratching, which one was in the script. It's not in the rough storyboarding. I mean, it wasn't in the animation. It was like the idea that on top of Wendy having a bad night, her boss was going to be a dick. And I ended up scrapping it because I thought, you know, there's really no need. But I even had like a whole headcanon about the boss and how, like, and it ties up with Bianca, and then ties up with Gamel, the turtle. But yeah, there was a couple of ideas there that didn't make it. But you know, at the end of the day, I didn't think it actually added anything to the animation, so that's why they didn't really make it. So yeah, so you know, with the rough storyboard done, I did. Oh, this is interesting. So I wanted the animation to have sound effects, right? I wasn't sure if I was gonna have grunts or if I was gonna have dialogue. I was probably gonna go with grunts, or maybe not even any sound from the characters themselves. But I knew that I wanted sound effects. So like walking sound effects and flapping the wings, city at night ambience, you know, restaurant ambience and things like that, right? And so I made a list, and I went scene by scene, right? Well, like scene by scene from the storyboard, and I made a list of like what I needed. And as you can see, I started ticking the ones that I already had and things like that. Very useful, actually. It ended up being quite useful. So yeah, it was quite useful, and I think I have a background checklist as well. So because it's, you know, because I'm a bit of a masochist, I guess, and I made the animation in a month. I think a month and 4 days exactly. I needed to be as conservative as I could with things like backgrounds. If I could repeat scenes, then I would repeat scenes. If I could simplify scenes, then I would simplify scenes. I knew that what I didn't want to do is oversimplify certain scenes, and I wanted to put a lot of effort into certain scenes. But in any case, this is the background checklist. So so the numbers are basically the scenes, the number of the scene, and for instance, this color restaurant, I don't know. I think this is the one that's like very simple. It's just like a brown There's no background, it's just like a brown gradient at the background, and I used it for a lot of scenes, and I think I even I ended up not liking it in some scenes, and I ended up actually making a little background for that specific scene. So yeah, also very useful to have know more or less how many backgrounds you're gonna have to draw. So yeah, at the end of the day though, you just do it. You just do it. You just do it. So yeah, that's the part that's outside of the computer. So now let's hop back in the computer now, and I'll show you, well, the rest. And here we are. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is just how massive this folder ended up being. This is the folder where the whole animation is in, and right now it sits comfortably at 76 gigabytes, which is quite a lot. So I had to put my the whole folder, like every file that I was making, I had to put it in a new hard drive, because with the experience that I had from the other animation, which also run to about like 40 gigabytes, the other one, the Halloween one, I run out of space on my SSD, so I had to, this time I was prepared, and I started straight away on a new hard drive. So yeah, this is one of the things that I learned from the original animation. So in here, basically it's everything. There's even the credit scenes right here, which I made. Basically they're just made like this, and then I just edited in Premiere Pro. There's the raw files, the raw video files without sound. There's the scenes themselves. All of them are in TVP, TV Paint files, which is the program that I use, TV Paint. I have backgrounds, have backups. I have backups of absolutely every scene that I have, and even some backgrounds, just in case. I never needed them, but you never know when the worst is gonna happen. So I wanted to be completely prepared, because this was a massive undertaking, really. A 6-minute animation in a month is really not an easy feat. not an easy feat. And yeah, I have pretty much all the files. I have the couple of songs that I use, the sound effects and everything. So yeah. So in order for me to show you how I do it, I'm gonna show you the digital storyboard, which you can see a little bit in the background there. But I'm also going to go in depth in one scene. You don't need to see every single scene, right? Because pretty much if I show you one scene, you know exactly how all the others are made. And I'm gonna show you one of the ones that are the most sort of busy in terms of things that there are, and little animated things here and there. So yeah, let's start with the storyboard. So first of all, I have my little file, TV Paint file, with basically the storyboard, which is what I already showed you in the notebook. But this one is digital. It's basically just the same, maybe with a little bit more detail, but really detail is not exactly what I go through, what I go for, because all I need is an idea, and then I put it all together, and you can play this, and it kind of plays like the animation itself. And what it does for me is that it gives me an idea of how much scenes should last, if they should last for a bit more, or if they should last for a little less. I mean, the end result wasn't a perfect result. I think there's a couple of scenes in the final animation that could have been shortened, and some that could have been extended maybe, but it still gives me a good idea of how long do I want the animation. And this is key, because I do hand animation, like frame by frame animation, and I really need to know the timing, because that, if it's 1 second more, it'll imply 24 more frames, and I need to know these kind of things. So this little thing is really, really useful for me. This the way that I have it, the way that I do the storyboards here. Not only that, but I also, if you notice, I have them numbered. So I have them numbered, so I know how many scenes do I need to do, And the best thing is that in TV Paint, you can color code them by grouping them. So initially, once I have everything done, initially it'll be all red because nothing is done. And then say that I did, you know, so for instance, some of the scenes are very simple, so you can do a few in a day. So I think I did this 2 in a day, and this one, and say that I done, I don't know, this one and this one. I don't go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I go with like whatever I feel like doing that day, and say that I finished them, so I can color code them green, and now I know that this what, like at a glance I know that these ones are finished. What you saw in the beginning, it was a purple, and that was just at the very end when I'm encoding them. That basically meant that it was already encoded, it was already done. The raw was ready to be exported into Premiere Pro for the final edit. So yeah, that's the storyboard. Now let's dig into this scene, the scene 5, which maybe you recognize, maybe you don't. It ended up looking like this. So this is the one where Wendy is working. It's like, see, this is one of those scenes that I think could have been shorter. But you know, it conveyed what I wanted to convey, which is that she was busy. And this scene, if we go in, I just made it. Let's not hide it. That's it. If we go in, you see that there is quite a lot going on. But to be fair, it looks scary, but it's really not that there's really not that much. Is what I'm trying to say. But before we even start here, the first thing that I do is create the background, because without the initial background, like, you can animate, sure, but you won't really know exactly where your character is going to be. So let's start with a background, which I do in Photoshop in general. Unless I do something quick, I do it directly in TV Paint, but if it's something like elaborate like this, I will usually use Photoshop. So in here, I have everything in layers, and it's one of the rare instances where I will name the layers, because then when I export it to TV Paint, it's just so much easier to, like, you know, rearrange them if I need to, or whatever, or to know exactly where is where. So we have the background, of course. We have the seat rows left, so that's this guy is right here. So they're the seats on the left, and apparently the back here as well. All back row, so that's the tables for the row at the back. Seats row right, yeah, same thing. And then everything is in a different layer, because there's going to be characters that I'm going to draw on top of them, and so you need to have them, you know, you need to have a believable thing. Otherwise, it's actually like a lot easier, because otherwise you have to like delete like your animation exactly where it should be, and it always looks a little funny if you do it like that. So it's better to just have it in layers, and just yeah. So that way, like, I can draw stuff. So if I want it like right here, I can draw right here the little guy, and not there. Actually, that's the wrong layer. There we go. So I can draw him here, and he will look like he is behind the table. See, so much easier to like go in layers like that. And once the background is done, it's as easy as just going into TV Paint and exporting the Photoshop file. And now, if you see, it's exactly the same, right? If you see the names, you'll notice that they are exactly the same in terms of the background pieces. See, and the rest, what you see color coded, is the small animations. I think this is just the background guy, so they're not animated. I believe is that Chihuahua, or is that Chihuahua? Let's find the Chihuahua. I believe this is the Chihuahua. Yeah, there it is. There she is. There's a little Chihuahua, and then there's this guy here, which I think I was just so done at the end of the day that I didn't want to animate him. This guy. Oh yeah, this is the bear that eats forever. It's like right here. Let's zoom in. There you go. That's the bear. Eats forever. See? There you go. And I think, where's the... Oh yeah, I animated the hand on a separate thing. Look at that.
What is this red one? It's a non-animated one. Oh, that's his hand. Okay, fair enough. Don't know why this hand is so far away, but there you go. This is this cat. She just looks alive. There you go. And I animated the tail. That's it. That's the one with the tail right here, I believe. Yes. No, this is the tail. There you go. So who are you? Oh, this is these two. Yeah. This is this purple one is this group over here. Yeah, those little wolfies. And yeah, so there is quite a lot going on, but you know, you just go in layers. You just go, you know, by pieces, and then you just slowly build up the puzzle, right? And at the end of the day, you end up with like something quite satisfactory. And this is, I believe, Wendy herself, whooshing around. Yeah. I have a few extra files just with her poses and a little animation that you can barely see this animation in the final product, because originally I had, actually I have the original right here. So originally she was going to pause instead, but then as I was doing that, right, as I was scrubbing like this, I realized actually that looks really funny, like how fast she's going, right? So I actually ended up doing that. I just made it really fast. Like I said, I feel like it lasts for a little bit too long, but you know, nothing is perfect. And that is at the end the animation with her sweat. There you go. And really, this is exactly how an animation goes. This one, in terms of character, doesn't have a lot of animation because there's a lot going on. So I wanted to simplify as much as possible. This is something that you kind of have to do when you give yourself just a month to finish a big animation. But some other animations get really complex. And this one is one of the ones that I dedicated like a lot of time to. And then I'm very happy how it came out. It's a very short scene, but it's the one where Skyfox is walking home, resigned that there's no more buses. I have his walk cycle on a different layer right here, and as you can see, it gets quite messy. It's a 2 second and a half walk cycle. It's a very slow, very drab, very like, can't do it. So it needed a lot more frames than your average walking animation, which would be maybe on 12. So that would be, yeah, well, so 24 on a second, so 12 layers if you're working on twos. So yeah, you know, I have the tears on a separate thing, which by the way, the tears are just this layer, but then I basically just tweened it to the position of them, and just looped it to have the thing. That's why they're like a little bit janky, but you know, it works. They work. Then I have, you know, the standard line art and the color layer, and then I have the tail on a different layer because the tail was always supposed to move at a different timing than the rest of the body. So when he stomps his foot, his tail is just getting there. Is just adjusting. See? So he stomps his foot, and there goes the tail adjusting, and stomps his foot, and there you go. See, well, not adjusting, settling, I think would be more appropriate. So yeah, and I quite liked how this one came out so much that I made it into a little update, if you remember. So yeah, they can get quite complex, but you know, all you gotta do is just really, you know, you set your goal, and you go one scene, and then and then the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. You know, because I cut a lot of corners and a lot of scenes are very easy. I was able to do like about 4 a day, and after a month, and I think it was a month exactly and 4 days. After a month and 4 days, it amounted to, well, what you saw, to Wendy. So yeah. See, like this one is just a still. There was like a couple that were a still. Yeah, see, yeah, that was just eyes. And yeah, that's all you do. You just do one, and then you do the other, and then you do the other, and that's it. That's there's no more. There's really no more secret than that. So yeah, the only thing that I knew at the time was that I wanted to cut a lot of corners because I needed the time, but I didn't want to cut corners on certain scenes. I wanted a bit more emotion on certain ones. And for instance, I believe it's number 53. For instance, let's look it up. So scenes 53. I'll show you. So I knew that I wanted a lot of emotion in this one, so I dedicated a lot more time than I usually would have. So for instance, the O is a more elaborate one. Like you could get away with just like 1 and 2 frames, right? You could have gone away with it, but I wanted like, and then the turn, I wanted a slow turn, and I could have gotten away with just 1, 2, and 3, for instance, but I wanted a lot more. So you know, these are the scenes that take me a little bit more. Like maybe I can do like 2 a day, or even just 1 a day. Really, like as long as it comes out right, that's what I cared about. I knew that I wanted some scenes to really have that emotional impact, and yeah, it works out. It works out in the end, or at least I think it does. Yeah, this slow turn. This is one of my little. It's such a short moment, but it's one of my favorites because she just turns around and just with that emotion, like, you know, like you did something really nice for me, and yeah. So yeah, some scenes you can do in you know in a few hours, or 1 hour, less than an hour even, and some other scenes you need like half of the day. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's all you do. You get to one scene and then you do the other, and then you have an animation. Hopefully at the end of the month as well. So yeah. In any case, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys like this little making of. Yeah, I thought it would be like a fun thing to do, because I can't really share all these files because, like I said, it's 76 gigabytes, so it's a lot. There's too much to share, and there's very little that you could do with them anyway. So you know, I thought like a little how it's made could be fun, and could be interesting to do. So yeah. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreons. Without you guys, like, this kind of things would not be possible. Whether animations or these making of, it just wouldn't happen. And thanks to you, I can keep Daily Skyfox on a very regular basis. And yeah, thank you guys so much. All right, I'll see you later. Ta-da.